Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has told President Volodymyr Zelensky that military aid is now on its way during a surprise visit to Kyiv. The top US diplomat told the Ukrainian president the weapons will make a real difference against the ongoing Russian aggression on the battlefield. A senior US official says the American-funded weapons now arriving at the front line include air defense interceptors, artillery and long-range precision-guided missiles. The visit comes as the country struggles to hold back a major Russian incursion near its second biggest city of Kharkiv. The United Nations says one of its staff members has been killed and another injured as they travelled to a hospital in southern Gaza. Video footage shows a UN-marked vehicle strewn with bullet holes outside the European hospital. The UN did not mention who it thought was responsible for the attack. The Israeli military said an initial inquiry indicated the vehicle was struck in an active combat zone and it had not been made aware of its route. Meanwhile, Israeli protesters blocked aid trucks destined for Gaza, throwing food packages onto the road and ripping bags of grain open in the occupied West Bank. The lorries, which were set upon at the Tamikwa checkpoint west of Hebron, came from Jordan and were headed to the Gaza Strip, where people are in desperate need of humanitarian aid. The White House has condemned the attack, describing the looting of aid convoys as a total outrage. The group reportedly behind the protest said they were demonstrating against the continued detention of Israeli hostages in Gaza. At least 14 people have been killed and dozens more injured after a giant billboard collapsed during a sudden storm in the Indian city of Mumbai. The billboard, measuring 70 metres by 50 metres according to police, fell onto houses and a petrol station in the city on Monday. Emergency services say a few people are still trapped under it and a rescue operation is underway. The government of Maharashtra state, where Mumbai is located, has ordered an inquiry into the incident. 4 people have died and 100 others have been left wounded after violent clashes with authorities in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Thousands of people have been on the streets since Friday to protest rising prices of flour and electricity. Organisers called off the protests a day after Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif offered subsidies worth 24 billion rupees, or $86 million. Part of a collapsed bridge in Baltimore has been deliberately destroyed, clearing the way for the eventual full return of shipping through one of the busiest sea routes in the US. The demolition broke apart chunks of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which collapsed in March. The operation was delayed over the weekend due to bad weather. The structure collapsed after it was hit by a cargo ship, the Dalai, which lost power and veered off course. Chad's interim Prime Minister, Sukhez Masra, has filed a petition at the Constitutional Council challenging the preliminary results of last week's presidential election. His boss, General Mahamat Debi, was declared winner with 61% of the vote, but Mr. Masra considers himself to be the true victor. The opposition figure and his Transformers party said the results should be annulled, alleging that some ballot boxes were stuffed and others were carried away by soldiers to be counted elsewhere. And Britain's King Charles has handed over a senior military role to his son, Prince William, at a ceremony marking a rare joint appearance for the pair as the King steps up his return to public duties after his cancer diagnosis. Charles presented William with the title of Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps, a position the 75-year-old monarch has held for 32 years in a service at the Army Flying Museum in southern England. The visit was Charles's latest engagement since he returned to work at the end of April, almost 3 months after Buckingham Palace announced he was being treated for an unspecified type of cancer.
Having had the pleasure of knowing you for so long, I do hope you'll go from strength to strength in the future with the Prince of Wales as your new Colonel-in-Chief.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.